The lost and found called about his jacket. I found a room key in the pocket. Hook. The woman from Lost and Found said the jacket had been turned in by a bar that believed in dim corners and cold fries. It's navy with a stitched cuff, she said, like she'd raised the coat herself. My husband had worn that jacket last night. He came home without it, and a mouth that smelled like apologies eager to clock in. I walked over at lunch because I'm the kind of person who retrieves lost things even when they're trying to stay missing. The bartender handed me the jacket and a smile that had no idea it was a witness. My name is Jonah, 35. I write copy that tries to convince people their money will behave for them if they behave for it. My husband is Luca. He designs buildings to look like they discovered themselves. 4 years married, we're exemplary at care and mediocre at heat. Coffee where a hand will find it. The good glasses, even for water. A kiss in the doorway that never auditions. We're very good at not breaking. We've forgotten how to be breakable on purpose. The jacket was heavier than it looked. At the bottom of the inside pocket, my fingers found a rectangle that pretended to be innocent. A hotel key card. The kind with a blank face, no logo, the travel equivalent of a shrug. On the back, someone had written 1406 with a pen that made every number look certain. The bar was 2 blocks from the hotel, which is how cities stage their jokes, so close even the decent people become efficient. I walked to the elevator pretending I was there for a conference about ethics that had an open bar and no handouts. The lobby smelled like citrus and old money rehearsing humility. "Room for Jonah Hale," I said to the clerk, because sometimes the door only opens when you use the wrong key. She smiled like she had been taught to see past people. I took the elevator without an itinerary and pressed 14 with the confidence of a man who intends to find the plot. The carpet in the hallway did that polite hush hotels install to make secrets take off their shoes. Room 1406 had the good wood around it, which means someone had believed this door would be asked to perform. I tapped the key card against the reader. It turned green with the kind of eagerness you hate to see in machines. Inside, the room was neat in the way good lies are. 2 glasses by the bed pretending to be for whiskey. A jacket that wasn't navy on the back of a chair. My husband's shoes, lined up like they had understood the assignment. Luca was by the window, sleeves rolled to the degree that makes manners illegal. He turned, and the beautiful wreckage I trust him for arrived. No rehearsal, just the face that has to work for me because it can't help it. The man beside him stood too. He had a mouth that would be forgiven under fluorescent light and worshipped under anything warmer. He didn't look surprised. He looked like someone who had the decency to anticipate consequences. "I'm Raphael," he said, not offering a hand and saving me from being nobler than I am. He took half a step back, seating heat without pretending to donate it. "I was going to tell you," Luca said, refusing to practice cowardice. He looked at me like he was trying to memorize my face before it changed into someone else's. I asked him to meet me to end the story out loud. "Good," I said, which is the kind of sentence you use when you're still figuring out where your lungs live. I set the jacket on the bed, and the hotel pretended it had earned the right to be present for this. "You kissed him," I said after the room had done its affidavit. The air vent sighing, the elevator cable making a distant decision, a laugh from the hallway like someone had survived something they didn't deserve to. "Twice," Luca said. "Once because I wanted to be chosen without auditioning. Once because I wanted to hurt us hard enough to move. Both times I thought of you. Both times I kept going." Raphael watched that admission land like weather. He didn't flinch. "He told me your name before we fell asleep," he said. "He told me he wasn't available for the kind of disaster I'm good at. I believed half of that. Do you want me to leave?" he added then, and it was astonishing how erotic decency can be when it isn't afraid. Yes, I said, because speed is the only kindness strangers deserve when the furniture is trying to testify. Thank you, I added, because my mother is a religion and I won't abandon her in a room like this. He nodded once, passed close enough that his shoulder rode a brief, polite heat across my collarbone, and touched Luca's knuckles with 2 fingers. Punctuation, not claim. The door did its soft click like a stage cue with self-esteem. I didn't sit. Neither did he. We stood in a room that had been purchased to do something else, and we made it work for us instead. I don't want to audition for your forgiveness, Luca said. I want to be chosen and then worth it. Then stop renting scenery, I said. Use the kitchen window, use the hallway light, use me. He crossed the space between us like a person who had remembered how to earn gravity. He put his palm where it belongs, between my shoulder blades, the square that convinces my lungs to obey. We kept it clean because some cameras are always imagining you, and explicit enough that the glass learned our names. My mouth found the place under his jaw where our history lives rent-controlled. He breathed a treaty against my throat, and my sternum decided to clock back in. We sat on the edge of the bed that had been trying out being a protagonist. He told me the short version of the long story, the donor dinner where applause pretends to be affection, the drink that tasted like permission, the text that arrived like a dare, the hallway where silence happens too efficiently. He said Raphael's name twice and mine like a metronome until the inch behind my ribs remembered its job description. Do we need this room? I asked, finally letting my body make sense. Or can we pay the bill with points that matter and go home? We can make the room tell the truth before we leave, he said. He poured water into the 2 heavy glasses with the theatricality of a penitent priest. We clinked like a liturgy that doesn't require Latin. Then we left without looking back to see if the bed had learned manners. We walked home because walking is the only ritual that doesn't ask you to sign anything. The city made its useless announcements. At our door, I taped a square of blue painter's tape to the kitchen window and wrote 807 above it with the pencil that lives beside the calendar. He smiled in that left-handed way he reserves for vows disguised as jokes. The next night at 8:07 he put his palm where it belonged and my lungs remembered how to be led. The neighborhood attempted to audition, sirens practicing remorse, elevator cables negotiating, someone laughing like they'd earned it. We didn't narrate. At 8:12 we did inventory. 3 facts, 2 fears, 1 want, no prosecution. At 8:20 we poured water into the good glasses and decided to become fluent in that small sound. It wasn't tidy. Twice that week he was late and the old monologue in my throat stood up and adjusted its tie and asked for a microphone. I asked it to wait in the hall. Once I saw Raphael outside a gallery at noon, tie loosened to the illegal degree, talking to a woman whose earrings looked like punctuation. He lifted 2 fingers, weather, not invitation. I nodded back because spite is expensive and I intend to retire loved. At 3:15 the next day, my phone delivered a push alert no app will admit to. Listen to 11 seconds of water. Present/bus stop, I wrote. Present/site walk, he replied, which is architect for I'm up where the weight lives, making sure nothing falls on you while you walk under it. We fought well, in lowercase like citizens of an apartment building. I asked why strangers' attention feels like oxygen. He asked why I polish our dignity until it slips out of my hands. I said I'm tired of writing copy for our marriage that reads like compliance. He said he forgot he could ask me for heat. We traded small, accurate sentences, heavier than shouted lies. He said Raphael's name without flinching. I said mine like an address I refused to sublet. 2 Saturdays later, the hotel emailed a survey. "How was your stay?" I opened it and typed. "Your water pressure is honest. Your sheets were complicit. We won't be back unless we've forgotten how to use our own window." I didn't send it. I read it out loud at 8:20 while the glasses clicked, and Luca laughed and kissed the corner of my mouth in a way I still haven't earned, which is how religion works. We installed a small hallway light with a sensor that wakes when we do. Coming home became an event instead of a trudge. "Practice entering," he said the first night we tested it. We did. I unlocked, stepped in, said out loud, "I'm in," because present is more erotic than sorry when it's honest. He followed, palm finding the back of the heart before the light finished its sentence. We stood there until the door forgot to be a barrier and remembered its real job. Raphael texted once more. A single line with a period and no theater. He's the kind of man you should be inconvenient for. I wrote back, "We're inventing a habit that costs real time." He replied, "Make it expensive to quit." Grace, the adult version. One evening we went to Luca's site because he had to approve a pour before dawn. The skeleton of the building held the sky like a promise it intended to keep. He adjusted a work lamp until the rebar turned into a drawing you could understand with your hands. "Walk with me," he said, and we did, across a floor that existed because he'd convinced it to. He held out his palm to show me where a wall would be, and I stepped into that space like a person who knows which side he's on. Clean. Explicit enough to teach the concrete our names. There were still relapses, texts too late, attention paid in the wrong direction like a tip that tells on you. Each time we did the ritual. Each time the square of tape worked like a lever. Some nights it was only breath. Some nights it was a mouth remembering my name like a rent check that clears on time. We kept the room decent and the heat employed. People ask, in bathroom lines and under misbehaving streetlights and over sinks that sound tired, whether there was a villain. They want me to say a man with forgiving wrists, or a hotel with forgiving light, or a husband who outsourced urgency to a bed that charged by the night. The truth humiliates us evenly and helpfully. The villain was the version of us that believed heat could be scheduled and romance subcontracted to scenery. The miracle was repetitive and small. Knock on our own door, say where we are, put a palm where breath listens, count to 60, try again. The erotic part wasn't a white shirt rolled one button too far or a key card that turned green with the eagerness of a fool. It was water in the good glasses clicking like a language we finally agreed to learn. It was my name in his mouth at the windows blue, spoken like taxes paid and receipts kept. It was the sensor light catching us while we practiced the difficult sport of staying. Last night he put the navy jacket back on its hook with a seriousness that made it look new. He slid the old hotel key into the drawer labeled miscellaneous, which is another way to spell maybe in our apartment. "Souvenir," he said, "for the day we forget what rooms are for." He pressed his palm between my shoulder blades, and for a minute the hallway forgot it owed anything to darkness. We didn't narrate. We let breath make the only noise that mattered. Tonight at 7:58 I'll set my phone face down like manners are still a technology worth installing. At 8:07 his palm will find the back of the heart and the tape will remember why it was hired. If we miss, we'll do the only miracle repetition has ever made plausible. Try again. 8, 17, 10, 10, 11, 11, whenever mercy clocks in. Somewhere a bartender is turning in another jacket and a clerk is writing a room number on the back of a key. Our door knows our knock. It keeps opening when we ask it to.